Yeah, that one smarted a bit, didn't it? West Ham 4, Ipswich 1. Welcome to Blue Monday, an Ipswich Town podcast. Dave, we're going to put this to the audience. This is going to be controversial and make me and maybe you hated. Although, according to what I hear from on the terraces, nobody hates you, Dave. It's just me. But, ladies and gentlemen of the live chat, is David Diamond going to end this show with Kieran McKenna's first ever elongated crap? Let us know in the audience, Dave. You seem very against this.
Well, no, I'm not against it. I'm not sure it'll be the first. I'm sure there must have been one after Charlton a couple of seasons ago. There must have been one. Surely there was one, but I'm sure
Valentine's Day.
Yeah, probably was. So let's see just how it goes. Let's see how it goes tonight. You know, we might well come out tonight with some great comments in. Our glasses are all half full again. Who knows? Who knows?
Craig, that feels like our worst day since we were back in the Premier League, right?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, 100%. It's probably our worst day for what? When was Leeds? December, wasn't it? Just before Christmas, wasn't it, last year? So,
yeah, like the 23rd or something, wasn't it? Yeah.
Our worst since then, I thought. But nothing better than an elongated crap.
An elongated crap, indeed. Guys, welcome to the Blue Monday podcast. A novelty. The winless run continues. I put out a tweet, actually, with my normal sort of existential crisis I've been having each and every single day this season of, do I concentrate on the on being above the dotted line, or do I concentrate on the 0 wins? But there we go. Get involved in the comments as we go, guys. We appreciate everybody who still listens on old school audio feed as well. Let's go straight to it then. Dave, here was your team for, is it our first ever trip to the London Stadium? For our first ever trip to the London. Did we never go there as a friendly, or was it like a COVID?
Oh, possibly as a friendly,
went to Tottenham, didn't we?
Certainly went to Tottenham. Yeah, certainly in a competitive game, our very first game there. Yeah.
And Dave, here's your team: Muric in goal, a familiar face there. Ben Johnson and Leif Davis are the fullbacks. O'Shea and Greaves, Morsey and Phillips, Burns, Hutchinson, Clark, and Delap. Your thoughts on the team, which does seem to have been decided is our strongest team, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's. I mean, the one glaring omission there, obviously, is Axel Tuanzebe, who probably, arguably, other than Delap, has probably been our most consistent player this season. I would say, certainly outstanding against Villa last week, and there were mutterings, weren't there? I think mutterings either Friday evening, I think it broke somewhere, or certainly yesterday morning that that perhaps he was going to be out, and people were thinking, well, yeah, maybe he's not, maybe it's just terrace talk or whatever. But no, sadly he's got, and it transpires last night, he's got some sort of hand injury that he got in training that requires.
What sort of a hand injury, Dave? It's going to keep you out of football for a long time. I didn't understand that.
A bloody nasty one by the sound of it. Obviously it requires an operation, so God knows. So I don't know.
You're not allowed to play, Dave, in protective covering?
Well, I think
maybe a lightweight one. You must remember that Leon Best had to go off at half time against Newcastle because he hurt his finger.
But
all those years ago.
I think you can play in a lightweight cast.
Did you hear the stony silence after the Leon Best mention?
It's like tumbleweed, wasn't it? Tumbleweed.
I'm just like, things can be worse. I'm going to keep dropping in things like Leon Best every now and again.
This is good. So, that was the only thing. So the side, obviously Burns in for, I think Ogbene started last week, so Burns in for Ogbene. But I think other than that, given the performance last week, the side pretty much picked itself, probably.
Anything to add to that, Craig?
I think, the guys on Prematch were wondering whether Schmodic would come in for Clark, with it being an away game, and his tenacity and being up for it, family of West Ham fans, I believe, etc., etc. So I think that may well have been a potential swap out. But Clark did well last week. Eventually, once he got up to speed, didn't he, in the match? So yeah, I think it was fair enough. In hindsight, potentially, maybe not.
Well, in hindsight, you'd have made a few changes there, wouldn't you, Craig? But we'll get to that, won't we? Right, Craig, here's your West Ham team. Areola in goal, Wan-Bissaka and Emerson, the fullbacks, Kilman and Todibo, Rodriguez, Souček, and it's a bit of quality in here, Craig. Bowen, Paquetá and Kudus off the front. It's very good. And they're all going to score, spoiler alert. And Antonio up top. I thought we could get at them, Craig, but your thoughts on that 11 before we get into the game?
I think it's the same 11 that played. I think their last game, wasn't it? I don't think any changes were made by Lopetegui, even after his little spat with Kudus. I think they had at half time, didn't they? Reportedly. So, but they obviously kissed and made up over the subsequent few days. So yeah, exactly the same as it was. But as you say, Ben, it's a good, solid team. Probably belies the fact that they hadn't been playing particularly well. Really, you look through the team and it's got a fair bit of quality in there.
Let me just quickly touch on the bench and the players that missed out for Town, particularly. We're going to see Szmodics, Ogbene, Taylor, Chaplin and Hurst, Walton, Townsend, Clark, Wolfenden, all on the bench. Craig, we will stay with you. I've christened him Calvin effing Phillips. I'm sure there were a few people calling my beloved Calvin Phillips, Calvin effing Phillips, after this opening goal. He played us into trouble here, didn't he? Bless him.
The effing was actually moved from the middle of his name to the beginning of his name.
I know. I'll take it this once. That's it. That's enough from me.
And the thing is, it's so frustrating because, as I said before we started, the West Ham fans they'd basically turned up ready to boo because even before the goal, we'd managed to string a few passes together, and Leif Davis was wide on the left, and West Ham had misplaced a couple, and they were already starting to get a little bit uppity. But yeah, as you say, Calvin plays a completely nothing ball pretty much in the centre circle. Luckily, Greaves wins the ball off of Antonio, but it just gets swept out to the wing to Bowen, and then we're on the back foot, and everyone's chasing back. We're all out of position. Eventually, Phillips gets back to help out Davis down our left. Davis follows the runner, and Bowen sort of very easily passes it into the box. And I say Greaves is still running back from that challenge that he'd made.
Greaves had to come out, didn't he, from the initial mistake? Yeah, he never recovers, bless him.
Yeah, he was up the field. Clark's up the field. And I say everyone's just like chasing back. You're only 30 seconds into the game, 40 seconds into the game. And Bowen just very easily just passes it into Antonio, who just sweeps it in. And yeah, from had the tables been turned, as I say, and we'd scored after 45 seconds, you can just imagine what the atmosphere would have been like there. But I say, unfortunately for us, it was tables turned, and they've got the tails up from the very, very beginning.
Good finish, Dave. Bad mistake. Terrible start.
Yeah, I mean, as Craig quite rightly said, I went yesterday and met some West Ham fans, before the game, and they're very edgy, and honestly, almost were expecting the worst and expecting to give Lopetegui a proper hard time. But worst possible start. What you do, an away game like that, home side under pressure, keep it tight, silence the crowd, get on top, string a few passes together. And Craig's quite right. Even in that first 30 seconds or 40 seconds, when we did string a few passes, there were mutterings already, sort of thing. So Craig's quite right. They came to give him some stick, but yeah, not a great touch from Phillips. Really, to be fair, really good overlap. That goes. Craig said that it probably goes missed a little bit. Wan-Bissaka makes a really good overlapping run, and he just puts it in an area, doesn't he? I'm not sure he's trying to pick Antonio out particularly. He just puts it in it's not a nothing ball. It's a good ball, and he sort of puts it in an area, and it's a good finish. First time, sweeps it in from keeper's got no chance. So yeah, you're right. The worst possible start.
So to the chat here, Craig thinks Antonio has scored past us for 4 teams, that being West Ham, Forest, Wednesday, and Southampton. Dave tells me apparently I was at the game with him for one of the goals. Southampton, I can't even remember it, so that says a lot about me, doesn't it? We don't even think Nugent scored for 5 teams against us. That feels like Preston, Leicester, Pompey, and Borough. Don't think he did it for Derby, did he? Let us know in the comments. Is that record that we don't particularly want to talk about. But yeah, Dave, straight back in it though, and Liam Delap.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, we show good response. I think I think we start knocking the ball around for the next sort of 2 or 3 or 4 minutes. Earn a corner. Yeah, goodish delivery in. It's I think O'Shea sort of challenges for it. Not quite at the near post. It's quite sort of away from the near post, but gets the first header on it. Or could be the defender. It's hard to say, but it balloons up beyond the 18-yard box. And this is just sheer strength and brilliance from Delap. Strength we'll get onto perhaps throughout the show, but he holds off. So it's quite fortunate it's a forward, so he holds off Paqueta. Paqueta puts in a bit of a weak challenge, but he still shows a hell of a lot of strength to sort of get his back in, turns him, and what he does, he hits it really early, right foot inside Areola's, who was excellent, but inside Areola's near post, gets a hand to it, can't stop it. I think it's two things there: the strength he shows to hold off Paqueta, the turn, first time shot, and the speed of the shot. It's just a great finish from a player who's really, really confident.
Craig, do you think like if Liam Delap makes a bowl of cereal, he sprints up to the rams it open. He just does everything so aggressively and fast, doesn't he? I love it. One speed Liam.
Yeah, and interesting, it's 2 weekends on the trot where he's got a shot where you'd think, from the outside looking in, that the goalie should have done better with it, but they're 2 decent goalkeepers. He's beaten Martinez last week, who got a decent hand to his shot, didn't he, at Portman Road, and then the goal at the weekend, very similar in terms of the goalkeepers getting a decent hand to it, but them still ending up in the back of the nets. He's big chunky old thighs, getting a bit of power behind the shots.
Big chunky thighs, Leon Best, and David saying he just played it into an error in the first 12 minutes of this podcast. I think we're going to get rave reviews for this one. Craig, am I to understand we were all right after the goal?
Yeah, we were. Davis was finding a hell of a lot of space down their left, and conversely, Bowen and Wan-Bissaka were finding a hell of a lot of space, in the space that Davis had left behind him. But there were 2 or 3 times, Dave, weren't there, where we'd picked out Davis on the left, and he was literally had that third of the strip of the pitch down towards our attacking half, just free. And I say that was riling a few West Ham fans. But it was a bit of a basketball match for maybe the middle 15, 20 minutes. It was pretty open, back and forth. We had a couple of hairy moments at the back. Muric was all at sea, wasn't he, for a header that Antonio crossed for Kudus, and he sort of came and went. Followed it up by passing it to Morsey on the penalty spot under a bit of pressure, and it was. Yeah, there was had Preston North End from last year all over it. Yeah, getting.
I think that was the one. I think that was what not turned it first half, but we were comfortable until then. Really, I'd say then. All right, they had. You're quite right. Craig said just before that. We should say the Greaves header from the Davis free kick was a hell of a chance, wasn't it? He wasn't seeing it back. That was a great chance. Oh man, put that in, and it's obviously goes out saying completely different complexion on the game, but it was. I think, and we were quite comfortable, like you said. Kudos had the header, which he should score. Great cross from Antonio, but until the sort of the suicide, and it was a suicidal kamikaze pass to Morsey, which ended up, I think Souček had a shot, which I think O'Shea cleared off the line. I think that just got the crowd going. That totally got the crowd going again.
Yeah. Not a prolific goal scorer for Hull, Greaves. Craig, it sort of played every game for them and scored 6 goals over his 4 seasons. So maybe that's something that that can be worked on. Would you like to talk about another West Ham goal, Craig? There's plenty to go around today, to be fair.
Yeah, we'll share them around.
Share them out.
But as Dave said, it was just that period of play following straight on the back of Muric sort of coming and not getting the Kudus header and then passing it to Morsey. It's sort of one on the back of the other, and the crowd got up, and you think, right, let's just get to half time, because we were looking a bit flaky at the back. Greaves had a bit of a dodgy 10-minute period. He was on his knees at one point, kneeing it out of play, and we just didn't look very comfortable at all when we were under a little bit of pressure.
Craig, was there any adverse effects then from the? Did he look noticeably nervous from the mistake? Because we saw Muric had a nervous week after, and obviously he gave away the goal against Villa, didn't he?
No, I wouldn't say so particularly, because he came and collected pretty much all the crosses that he needed to come for. You know, in terms of corners and free kicks, he was pretty dominant in the air. Other than that one that he sort of changed his mind halfway through, some of them was even catching without having to take jump off the floor to take. He was looking very solid from that respect, and a couple of times he pinged the ball out nicely. Certainly more mid to long range than the ones in and around his 18-yard box. He was a couple of times he picked out, I think, Davis or Clark on the left and Delap straight through the middle of the pitch. But I say, just seems to just lose his mind for, like he did at Man City, makes a mistake and then straight after makes another mistake, sort of thing. He just needs to maybe take 30 seconds just to calm stuff down and whack out the other end of the pitch for a little piece. But yeah, so in terms of the second goal, Emerson gets past Morsey down our right, and manages to get a cross in past Johnson, and it's another free header. We've gone past the Kudus one, who had a free header. It's Antonio this time has a free header. Clatters back off the bar, and Kudus is there just to nod it in amongst a couple of defenders, and Muric, who's just about getting off the floor by the time the ball got to him, unfortunately. And Dave can talk about the one just after half time, but when you think of 3 times you don't want to concede a goal, it's probably in the first minute, a couple of minutes before half time, and maybe 2 or 3 minutes just after half time.
Yeah, that's the unholy trinity. I hadn't thought of it like that, Craig. Not that there's a good time to concede a goal, but your point totally stands with those 3. Anything to add on that second goal?
No, I don't think so. I mean, yeah, Morsey was caught by Emerson. It was a good run, a lot of pace. He showed a fair bit of pace, Emerson. It's a lovely cross. He sort of digs across out with his left foot. And I think a bit of a mismatch. Antonio, let's face it, was a handful all game. He's just got a physical presence, hasn't he? He's bloody hell, an absolute beast. What is he, 34? But he's quick as well, Craig. Surprised me, quick. And he sort of pulls away from Davis, and that's a no contest, no matches and mismatch. And Kudus just reacts. He gets up really well, actually, Kudus, from standing jump, and just Muric can't get back, and sort of one of those comedy goalkeeper moments where I think he probably ends up in the net, doesn't he, Muric? I think one of those comedy ones. So it's just a kick in the bloody nuts, just before half time. You get in at 1-1 and totally different team talk, isn't it?
It is very much. We'll get into the second half after a word from our sponsors over at Atwell.
Blue Monday is proudly brought to you in partnership with our friends at Atwell Solicitors, your ideal legal partner for work on property or business law. Their client care has repeatedly been recognised as outstanding, and they are people-focused with a plain English approach which sets them apart. They have offices in Ipswich, Colchester and London, and to find out more, head to atwells.com.
Got to agree with Dave, Craig. It would be a totally different team talk and maybe strategy walking out into the second half if that goal doesn't go in.
Yeah, absolutely. But as Dave said about the crowd getting up, that just helps as well, doesn't it? We've conceded a goal in the first minute. That gets the crowd, who are there maybe just to vent their frustrations at the manager. Well, that's out the window after 40 odd seconds, and then getting another goal just for half time when you're 1-1, and maybe we had a couple of chances, but the Muric pass to Morsey and then the subsequent goal just keeps that momentum going and keeps the Hammers happy, unfortunately.
Dave, speaking of forwards who like to score against us, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Jared Bowen.
I won't say it, Ben, but whoa! Anyway, it's it's
mate,
horrible.
He's quality. There's nothing crap about him. He's class.
We'll get onto their front 4. I mean, they are, to be fair,
very good.
No coincidence they all scored, but it's a horrible ball back from Johnson. The ball drops to him about for Johnson, about 30 yards out probably. And I think he doesn't.
You can tell we've lost. This behaviour's coming in now, Craig.
But I don't think he has to play it first time, does he? I don't
he
think
can cushion it better as well, can't he? Surely.
He just lobs it back, and it's a horrible one because it bounces just in front of Muric. And who's closing down Muric? He's got bloody massive Antonio bearing down on him from about 5 yards. He can't do anything, so he sort of fly hacks it, tries to fly hack it clear, and that's why I think you get a little bit unlucky because it bloody falls to Bowen. It bloody of all people falls to Bowen. What was he, Craig? 30 yards out. And it's not great from then on because he's got a clear run and he's allowed to run into the box and he squares Phillips up so easily. It is a bit Phillips. Christ, he played there last season. Bowen's very much predominantly left foot. So when he's got him at the angle, sort of on the angle of the 6 yard, probably 6 yard box and the edge of the box, you need to surely try and show him outside, but he makes it so easy. He doesn't drop his shoulder, he just shifts it on his left foot. Look, it's a class finish. He just bends it, passes it in the far corner. It's an absolute class finish. But yeah, the time and what was that, 47, 48 was it? Oh, it's a shit show, really.
49, Dave, but
whatever.
Yeah. Craig, is that game over at that point then?
Yeah, pretty much. And we didn't seem to have. I appreciate the pass back to Muric, and we've gone from last year seeing Václav Hladký cushion a ball at Middlesbrough, about 40 yards out of his goal, just bringing it down out the air, a goal kick, didn't he? Before he started strolling around and pinging the ball about. And poor old Muric, it was a heavy touch, and his second touch is a sliding tackle, and as Dave said, it could end up anywhere, but. Again, we're on the back foot. And I think Streaky said earlier in the messages about there still being work to do after the Phillips pass in the first minute. All four of the goals, really, they come from mistakes. But after those mistakes, there's still a fair bit of work that needs to be done before they score the actual goals.
But just Craig, after free everybody, this is the Premier League, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You just don't have time to recover, If you're on the back foot and you're chasing back, these players, as Dave said about Phillips, he's got back, but he's not positioned right. He tries to show Bowen down the right, doesn't he? Down on his right foot, but he just steps inside and
too easy,
as he tends to do, passes it in the far corner with his left foot. You just can't defend and play like that in the Premier League, can you? Unfortunately, you're going to get punished.
Did you get a bit loose and get away from us now, Dave?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, it's another 20 minutes, is it, Craig, before they score? So I think they're relatively in control. Then we do have a little period, to be fair. We get the ball down, we play. Areola makes a unbelievable save. Watching that save back, that's reminiscent a bit of, I won't go too over the top, but Gordon Banks against Pele. Only that, obviously, Gordon Banks,
Leon Best and Pele in the same.
Gordon Banks.
Blue Monday podcast, everybody.
No, he does. Gordon Banks flips it up and over the bar, but it is. Delap does everything right. For once, Burns, I didn't think was great yesterday, but does put in a really good ball. It's a great ball. Really good header from Delap. Really attacks it. It's a brilliant save. When you look at that bat, it's a brilliant save. So again, 3-2. Who knows? But yeah, it must have been 5 minutes before, I think, probably before their next one.
Who would like to talk about Lucas Paquetá's goal?
Just quickly, I think the next one is quite a good goal, but you carry on, Gray.
Oh, really? Okay.
No, you must.
Well, it's Antonio and Bowen, isn't it? Antonio releases Bowen down our left again, and Davis is 15 yards further up the pitch. And for some reason, all day yesterday, as I said about the first half, Davis being a lot of space. He didn't have as much space in the second half going forward, but still managed to leave the big gap behind him. And we're so used to seeing Cameron Burgess or Massimo Luongo just edging themselves across and covering that gap, aren't we? But yesterday, a combination of Greaves and Phillips just didn't seem to either read it or get across there as quickly. And also Clark, I thought, was disappointing defensively. Certainly, he just seemed to be very central. I don't know if you can see. Are you side on, Dave?
Yeah, I was in the Billy Bond stand. Yeah.
So we were looking at it straight down the pitch. He was very, very, very central, as we sometimes tend to do, allowing Davis to bomb down the left. But when we lost the ball, he didn't get over and back quick enough to cover that space. And again, it just comes down in that corner. Say Davis is 15 yards ahead of the ball, nobody covering. Bowen just sort of strolls into the box and outside of the foot, straight across the penalty area. And despite us having, I think, 7 or 8 players in the box, he still manages to find Paquetá free as a bird at the back post to tap in. And it's done and dusted by then.
Yeah, I had to kind of chuckle, bit of gallows humour. I can't remember who it was in our brilliant Telegram group, Dave, but they'd said, "Oh well, it's all much of a muchness." apart from Bowen, Paquetá and Kudus, and just ticking them all off as they all bloody turned up as well.
The front four are a right handful, and as McKenna said afterwards, and funny enough, my West Ham supporting pub, die-hard West Ham, said, "Oh, he's got a nerve, McKenna, because he's accused us of playing direct football sort of thing." Well, yeah, I don't think he was. I think he was just really disappointed that when they did go direct to Antonio, he just won everything and brought others into play. We just couldn't compete, and I think it's the same with Souček in midfield. And it goes back to what I've said, and we've all said week in, week out. Just physicality. Clark, weak. Hutchison yesterday, weak. Just not really. His touch weren't there. Burns, okay-ish, but not great. And I totally agree with what Craig said at the start, that I think Smodics would have been a better bet in there yesterday for certainly for Clark. And maybe, as I saw someone say in the chat, maybe horses for courses, Clark might play at home and Smodics away, or something like that. But
Dave, you saying that specifically against a team like West Ham, who were very powerful?
But they're all bloody powerful, aren't they? Yeah. Every single game. This is what we're saying. Every single game. Someone just mentioned in the chat. I'd never even heard of him. Todibo at the back.
He played well against Delat, didn't he?
What a player he is! What a player!
Strong as an ox, wasn't he?
Oh my God! Brilliant player. But then you look back and he's what was he, 30 million or something? I don't know. I did look on Transfer Market this morning just to try and sort of make myself feel better and counteract things. And their starting 11 has got a valuation of 300 million. So there you go. That's without Somerville and who else? I'd say, look, it is what you're up against.
Somerville,
they've been in the Premier. They've been in the Premier League 10, 11 years now. 10, 11 seasons now.
You say about the strength, Dave. It's also the amount of times our players were just nudged off, the timing of those little nudges off the ball, and our players would go flying. That happened to Delap. Todibo, I thought, played despite Delap scoring a goal, obviously, but Todibo wasn't near him at the time. Player. But yeah, he was strong, wasn't he? He was nudging Delap off the ball. He had him pretty much under.
And you just noticed Morsey's one. So how many times in the last, so even in the Championship, or League One, never happened Championship. How many times has Morsey, got the ball and just nudged off the never? Happened 2 or 3 times yesterday. You just never used to see that. You're just coming up against a totally different proposition week in, week out. That's just what it is.
But unfortunately, that's the way it is. You say about Burns, he's up against Emerson, who's played 30 times for Italy, and Todibo's a France international, and Rodriguez is an Argentina international in the middle of midfield, isn't he? But that's what we're going to have to put up with and find a solution to every week, isn't it?
Well, I think about it. What did annoy me yesterday, I don't know why I did it, but I saw a TalkSport interview with Jamie O'Hara, whether this was going on live while the match was on, and he almost said stuff like, I don't know how these promoted teams have got, not why they do it, I don't know how these promoted teams have got the audacity to play out from the back. You think, for Christ's sake, that's our identity. That's what we are, So we're trying, but honestly, I know it's for clicks, but even so, for God's sake.
Yeah, that's a silly comment, isn't it? Do we need to dwell on the last 20, Craig?
No, I don't think so. Particularly, I don't think they were still getting forward. As you would do, the towers are up. They were still piling plenty of people into the box. As Dave said about Morsey, got caught in possession, didn't he? He still had a little bit of a dribble and just didn't release the ball. Hutchinson, to be fair to Hutchinson, every time he got the ball, they had 2 on him, didn't they? 2 or 3 on him straight away. But if you're our main man and the main fulcrum of our attack, other opposition are going to do that and try and snuff you out, which they successfully did yesterday, unfortunately. But the frustration is certainly starting off in the first half, we wouldn't have had to play much better to get a result. But say once you start conceding, giving these goals away from silly mistakes, then if you go like for like, 11 versus 11, and they play as well as they can and we play as well as we can, they're going to beat us. You start giving teams a foot up, you've got absolutely no chance whatsoever.
That was going to be my kind of... I don't mind this season, to Craig's point, Dave, if, we go up against someone like Liverpool maybe, where, we kind of played pretty well and they're better than us, and you come away saying, if we always play like that against the lower opposition, we'll win a game. I think the problem is when you come away and you boys are saying, oh, mistake for that goal, not quite strong enough, and we let it get away with us for big. That's good. And I know we're going to have the debate in the questions about your your levels of positivity and that. Everyone in the chat, you cope however you need to cope with a defeat in a football match. We're here to just say what happened yesterday and try and give a balanced viewpoint of that. And we're going to tell the truth, okay, whether that's demoralizing or not. But can you just pick up on Craig's line about, being under par yourself is you're just never going to be able to do that in the Premier League, Dave, are you?
Look, we did it. How many times did we do it last season? We snatched these odd goals. You could say probably overall for what 60, maybe 70% of that famous Southampton home game last year, for argument's sake, probably Southampton with a better side, but you get away with it. You just can't get away with it. Let's face it. Last week against Villa, probably we probably played to our max. Probably I'd say just about, especially in that second half. I probably could have nicked a win. Look at Villa. Christ, Wednesday, Thursday went on to beat Bayern Munich, for God's sake. So. Yeah, you just get, as we said, we're saying week in, week out, every little mistake you get punished. Well, yesterday they probably were glaring mistakes, really, weren't they? And you just can't, you just won't get away with it, unfortunately. The quality is just at such a level that you're just not going to get away with it.
Dave, have you been practicing taking your left arm and pointing downwards at the One Stop Badges sign? The people at One Stop, their marketing team, love this. They're like, "Oh, we get ages on Blue Monday every week." The guy can't point at the point of the badge. You're going to wave a One Stop badge there. Yeah, tremendous stuff. Yeah. If you hold it still, people can see it, fella. There we go. Beautiful stuff. A Blue Monday podcast badge there, and you can get your discount at the wonderful people at One Stop Badges. I think all the links and stuff are in the description there. Big thank you to One Stop. Craig, these numbers are ugly, although I'm going to be a super politician and say that the XG is particularly high because I think Paquetá's goal is like 0.9 and I think Kudus is like 0.5 or something as well. But, Craig, these numbers are pretty ugly. 53-47 on the possession, 3.79 to 0.65 on the XG, 23 shots to 9, 13 shots on target to 2. This one got me a bit. 9 big chances for West Ham, 9 to 2 on the Foot Mob algorithm. Please don't get emotional about football's definition of a big chance. And if you do, please write them a strongly worded letter and don't question me about it. I have nothing to do with it. Yeah, Craig, do you want to round this out? Just one to tick off, forget. Hopefully there's some good learning from it and we'll be better soon.
Oof, we've got to be better in the next game, I think, just for everyone's sake. But yeah, no, you're right about, I'm not a particular convert of XG, but, even the eye test will tell you that we are conceding too many big chances on our goal. And unfortunately, our goalkeeper is okay, but he's not good enough to keep all those big chances out to allow it, because we're not creating a huge amount at the other end currently either. We've gone from a team who's used to scoring 100 goals a season. I think that we've currently got the lowest XG in the Premier League. A lot of our games, 1, 2, 3, I counted them up earlier. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of our 7 games we've had an XG of lower than 1. And the 2 that we haven't was Southampton and just over 1 with Villa. So it's not as if we're unfortunately creating masses of chances at the other end to accommodate and compensate for the chances that we're giving up at the other end. So yeah, hopefully that will change around pretty soon. But you looked at match of the day and looked at Everton yesterday and they didn't look too shabby, and you can go through their team and say, oh look, he's an international for X, Y and Z as well.
Play that game every week, Craig, can't we? Yeah,
absolutely.
Dave, sum up.
No, nothing really more to add to that. Totally beaten by the better side on the day. Yes, we gave them a helping hand, I think, as McKenna adhered to in his post-match stuff. Yeah, just got to cut out those fairly basic errors, and then I think you cut those out, and then you're 3 points perhaps around the corner.
Can we have a quick go at the stadium? I know people. That's the first time I've been there to watch a football match. And people, you hear people say, "Oh, it's soulless. There's nothing going. It's a horrible, an atrocious place to watch football." I don't know how you can watch it as a home fan. There's not a decent seat.
Oh, the home fans are great. I did a thing on
stadium
in a West Ham channel, and they agree with you, Craig. The home fans agree with you.
If you're at the sides, you're miles back, and You just always moulds back, queuing up to get in. You get searched 2 or 3 times to get in. Coming out, there's just thousands of people trying to get into Westfield to get into the train station.
Look around that ground at 80 minutes yesterday. I mean, I know sometimes Portman Road maybe 85 if you're winning, stuff like that. 80 minutes. Even before that ground was half empty. It was unbelievable. And yet you think, and I left. I was in a Billy Bond stand, so to get away. I think I missed.
David to get back into the whatever corporate he was in for the.
Yeah,
for the
right.
you
got to get the scrum because you can't get back through Stratford where you came. You have to go all the way around Stratford, the shopping centre, Westfield. Sorry. And it's just an absolute.
Imagine doing that every home game. Imagine you just been slapped 3-0 by Man City. It's pissing down with rain.
Sound like Mick McCarthy there, slapped.
Clearly, the home fans know when Stratford. So I guess they closed the bit through Westfield. Clearly, they closed that maybe 15 minutes from the end. Hence the big exodus. Probably if you pull one up, for goodness sake. What I did miss actually, which I saw back on the highlight, was Smodic's chance, which looked a half decent chance and really nice football.
Yeah, he's sort of cutting and just curled it. You can see what he's trying to do, just put it in the far corner, couldn't you? But
it's a nice football up to then. I know it's 4-1 and almost the last knockings, but that looked a decent.
Because it's one of the only few times we did something just a little bit quicker with a bit of sharpness, didn't we? One touch. Chaplin was it Chaplin just fired one into the box at one point as well. Him and Hurst come on, didn't they? Towards the end, you can see the little bit of understanding, clicking again. But we just did things too pedestrian yesterday. We're not good enough, unfortunately, to do things slowly and allow a team to get back and settle defensively for us to then unpick them. Man City couldn't do it against Arsenal a couple of weeks back. So unfortunately, we're not going to be able to do it against Premier League teams. We've got to do things just a little bit sharper.
There you go. ITFC women held on to a goalless home draw with Watford this afternoon. On the road next weekend to Plymouth. If anyone is going down to see ITFC women in Plymouth, give us a shout and we'll give you a shout out on the Twitter or on the podcast if we can find a point somewhere. That is absolutely heroic. And Dave, this will blow your mind. I got stopped at Portman Road the other day. Some guy said, we listened to the pod. He's called Rob. His son was called Toby, and he must have been, I don't know, like 8 or 9 years old or something. And he said his entire understanding of Ipswich Town was based on listening to the podcast. So I said to Rob, his dad, I'm not going to give you a shout out. I'll definitely give your son a shout out.
That poor kid. On the subject of shout out, I said to Mikey met a couple of friendly Blue Monday fans, apparently day oneers, Ben, on the train going home last night from Saxmundham. Don't know their names, but I said I'd give them a shout, whoever you are.
Craig, we were told they were big David Diamond fans.
Yeah,
he's shouting that out, isn't he?
Well, of course.
I wasn't mentioned. You weren't mentioned, Ben.
No.
Just a quick one for Toby. Uncle Dave's going to give you a new word for your vocabulary at the very, very end. At the very end of the pod.
Well,
so
if he's been listening a while,
I can't now. Can
he'll have heard that word many, many times. Right, we need to go to the Premier League roundup in association with Innovation Labs. Okay, pick out a game from the Premier League, guys, to talk about. I'll go for the results. If you want to talk about George Edmondson scoring for Middlesbrough, or Idris El-Mazuni's goal in midweek for Oxford, or Caden Jackson and Marcus Harness combining for a quite lovely goal for Derby, you can mention those as well. It was Palace 0, Liverpool 1, which gets a thumbs up in my childish I want everyone to lose in the relegation zone position this year. So, therefore, Arsenal 3, Southampton 1 is also helpful, and so is Brentford 5, Wolves 3. And I think, correct me in the chat, those are the results that have kept us, am I right, out of the bottom 3. It pains me to say it, but well done, Leicester. Then there were only, 4 now with 0 wins. Leicester 1, Bournemouth 0. That's what we got to do. We got to keep a clean sheet at some point and get a win, haven't we? Man City 3, Fulham 2, don't care. We talked a lot about West Ham 4, Ipswich 1. That's our job. Everton 0, Newcastle 0. Read into that what you will ahead of next game. Villa 0, Man United 0, Chelsea 1, Forest 1. Brighton 3, Spurs 2. Craig, which of those scores, in association with Innovation Labs, would you like to talk about?
Well, just a couple, if I don't mind. But quickly, the Leicester Bournemouth. Unfortunately for us, I think. Well, I don't know if it was the Leicester goalkeeper had another stormer, but I think Bournemouth had 17 shots to Leicester's 6, and Bournemouth had doubled the XG that Leicester had. But just unfortunately, they managed to ride it out. But I think Dave would have liked the Jimenez back heel assist for Fulham against Man City, where he sort of half volley back heeled it, didn't he? For the header
over the head of the defender as well. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. And that bonkers Brighton game this afternoon was made up for the dreary snore fest that was Villa Man U.
Dave, what you want to talk about?
Well, it's a really nice stuff. Well, for a time.
Sorry, Dave. Sorry to interrupt you. Sorry, I always tell you off for doing that. Guys, get your questions in for the next segment. Questions in for Dave and Craig for the next segment. Sorry, David, go ahead.
No, just for a couple of things. For a time yesterday, I think Craig, just as West Ham scored their 4th, Southampton took the lead at Arsenal, and you're going, oh my God, how worse can this get? But obviously Arsenal recovered. A brilliant stat, and I don't know if you guys saw this from the Brentford Wolves game, the 5-3 game. Did you see that stat? Every goal was scored by a player of a different nationality.
Well, all 8 goals?
All 8 goals were scored by a player with a different nationality. And I sadly...
Have any of them scored for 5 different clubs against Ipswich Town, Dave?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't think there is. I'm saying it now. No, I'm saying it now. But I'm sure probably someone has. So yeah, there was I think Embuemo and I forget who the other player was. Might have been a Wolves player who both looked like they.
Cunha, Larson, Nori, Collins, Embuemo, Norgard, Pinnock, Carvalho.
So it might have been Nori and Embuemo. I'm not sure, but anyway, I think it's Nori who plays, who's French but plays for Algeria. So technically, but yeah, that's a great stat.
It's a very good.
There was some shambolic defending in that one.
As they said in the chat, a very, if there is such a thing, Spursy-like performance. But yeah, Brighton. I haven't seen it yet, but obviously Brighton blew them away second half. So I think they scored their 3 goals. They're 3-2 up by about the 65th or late 60 minutes, weren't they?
Spurs were strolling that game at half time, just absolutely strolling it.
Yeah.
There you go. There is your round 7. This number's getting higher and we still haven't won. Premier League roundup in association with Innovation Lab. Right, Craig, feel free to not answer because I ask every week, but where are you on the 17th place versus 0 wins? Because I still can't get my head around it.
Well, I think we need to increase the 0 wins, otherwise we won't be in 17th place for much longer. I think that's, we're by definition of the teams below us having 0 wins. I think we're there, obviously. But yeah, well, I think we thought that the Everton match was a big game, potential 6-pointer, whichever cliche you want to associate to it. But I think after yesterday's performance,
I like must win as a cliche, Craig. If you want to throw that one in there,
yeah. Okay, we'll go for that then, because I think not necessarily the result yesterday. As Dave said, if you go relatively toe-to-toe with these teams and the quality of the opposition outfoxes us because by virtue of them having much better players than us, so be it. But the performance yesterday was a bit of a gut punch, I think, to the fans that were there yesterday. It was a bit of an eye-opener, unfortunately. So, yeah, hopefully we can turn that round for Everton because, yeah, that's looking quite a monumental game now.
Starts to get desperate, the need for a win now, doesn't it, Dave? Now we've done all this Liverpool-Man City thing. We've done this.
Yeah, it does.
It's
particularly,
okay, it's going to be October the 19th, this next game, isn't it?
Yeah, and particularly with I think the next 2 home games coming up, which I believe is it not Everton, then next up Leicester, is that right? Or is Leicester away? I'm not sure.
No, I think Brentford's away, isn't it?
I think So I think the next 2 home games. So yeah, I mean, you look for those next 2 home games, you want to be looking at a minimum 4 points, don't you? Mate. Certainly.
I don't like these minimums. Get your questions in for David and Craig. Guys, nice quick answers, and we should be able to answer most of these. Dave, Chris, does Wolfie deserve a second chance?
Not at the moment, I'd say. No, he's not. I can't see him. Although he's on the bench yesterday, obviously, because of Twanzabi's injury, and maybe Clark just sort of coming back into the squad, because normally there's no centre half on the bench. So at least he was on the bench yesterday. But again, I do this game every week with Joe, don't we? How much was O'Shea again? 10 million, 11, something like that. He's not going to. I just don't see that yet. No.
Okay. Craig, Norman, based on what you've seen from the first 7 games, great question. Where do we need to strengthen to stay up?
Well,
clean sheet?
Nowhere until January. I don't know. But as Dave said, where haven't we already spent 8, 10, 12, 15, 20 million pounds to strengthen? You can go through the team. Potentially centre midfield. If you can get a proper unit, big, strong, powerful centre midfielder, then maybe there. As Dave said about the boys in the team, the Clarks and the Hutchinsons as well, they are a little bit lightweight, but you're hoping to build a team around these guys from an attacking perspective. So maybe a bit more solidity and power in the centre midfield. But I'm not going to say who I'd replace there.
No.
Again, I suppose. I think you've got one. That Kayust is a unit, isn't he? He's big. He's there, but again, unfortunately, injured at the moment.
Yeah. Dave, we don't seem to be getting anywhere near the best from Hutchinson. How does McKenna remedy that?
I think you said it earlier, Ben. I think as you just said it, he is getting, every time he receives the ball, and it's evident again yesterday, he is being heavily. He's a target. They know he's our sort of catalyst, really, don't they? He's very much, he's very much doubled up on, and it's hard. You forget he's so good. He's only 20? Is he 20, 21? I saw this guy. Whether I like that, I'm not undecided about it. He put a tweet out or something out today on maybe what's that new thing, Instagram, is it? About he apologise sort of thing. Well, you've got nothing really to apologise for at the end of the day. Yeah, you were slightly below par, but it's I wouldn't be surprised if perhaps he is moved out of the middle. And I know, despite all we've said in recent weeks, that perhaps he is moved out of the middle and played perhaps slightly wider right. Wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, because that might 2 birds, 1 stone. If you want a runner and a presser and a more defensive. I know Smodics was the top scorer in the championship last year, but take your point.
But just a bit more physicality from Smodics and a bit more aggressive as well, which wouldn't go amiss.
Yeah, sure. Craig, Neil, who's our best option on the right side of the front three? That leads on nicely.
Yeah, it's difficult really, because no one that's playing there at the moment is really pulling up too many trees. When Ogbene gets a rare chance there, like he did over at Villa, we seem to, and I'm sure it was by design rather than happenstance, that we were just looking left all the time, weren't we? Last week against Villa, Davis was our only attacking outlet, because we simply did not pass the ball out to the right Ogbene, and I'm absolutely sure he was doing the job that he was in the team to do from a defensive and covering perspective, and just locking down that Villa left-hand side and freeing up everything over on the right. But as Dave said earlier about Burns yesterday, he didn't have a great game. But as we said, he's a guy who would be playing League One in the Championship, and all of a sudden he's up against a guy who's played 30 times for Italy, and expecting to stand him up, take him on, and whip crosses in for the afternoon. So I don't see too much from what little we've seen of Ogbene. I don't see too much difference between the two of them, but he does have a bit more pedigree behind him. So I'd be tempted just to stick Ogbene in for a little while and see how he can, if he can make the position his own.
Dave, Joe, would we have had better luck against Antonio's aerial presence by playing Burgess yesterday? Or he seems to really want to lock down that centre half partnership, though, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does, quite possibly, but you wouldn't be leaving Greaves out, would you? Okay, you can't. Greaves got perhaps a bit vilified last week because of his sort of rush of blood with the clearance, but I think he's took to Premier League football, proverbial duck to water. He's played really well, really, really well. I get the point. Maybe his maybe he's slightly bigger, even bigger stature than Greaves, and his physicality might have worked. But Antonio's a beast, mate. He's so good. You can see with them West Ham fans. He's so good, strong. His touch is good. He's quick. I mean, but for them, they were saying near me, he's not going to be around forever. We've got to replace this guy. But he was really good yesterday. And the answer, yes, perhaps Burgess physicality 1-on-1 against him might well have done, but I wouldn't perhaps fancied him being squared up by Antonio on the being run at by him.
Craig from Rob, do you feel that we need to be more pragmatic in our approach away from home, as I feel we're a bit too open? Can I just add on to that? Kieran McKenna's been very good at adjusting and tweaking to, questions and discussions have come up on the pod, haven't they? In League One, do you think we're a bit slack here? And then he goes and does it, doesn't he? So I think there's a chance that could happen, and we can't be conceding this many goals as a consequence, even if it's not forever. I think a little tweak in some way, and he's the guy to mastermind it, surely, isn't he?
Yeah. And if you look at our away performances compared to our home performances, they're not quite chalk and cheese, but they aren't great away from home. You look at the Southampton second half performance, it wasn't great, and maybe
Craig, the starts away from home as well.
Yeah, and Brighton, we got away with one potential. I know we defended well, but you still need Muric to pull off a double save and them to miss a couple of chances, etc. I don't think we've quite worked out what we should be doing in the away games compared to the home. It looks like we're trying to play exactly the same way, but we can't allow teams starts, as you say, Ben. We can't allow opposition fans to get their gander up because unfortunately we haven't quite got the quality to claw these games back.
Dave, Neil, will we see Harry Clark now, Tuan Zabi out?
I would not be surprised to see Harry Clark. Right,
Harry Clark.
Game. Yeah, I would not be surprised to see Harry Clark at right back next game. Yeah, particularly if he goes with Burns again, because they've got that that understanding from last year. They played together, it wouldn't surprise me. And again, we go back to that physicality thing again. He's a big lad, gets up and down the pitch. So that wouldn't surprise me. Johnson. It's harsh on Johnson yesterday. Do you know what, Craig? Whether the occasion was too much for Johnson yesterday, I think perhaps that got to him a bit. Going back to West Ham, and of course, the whole defence. You can see one, not that it's his fault the first goal, but you can see one so early on, and the whole defence are on the back foot a bit, aren't you? And he wasn't great yesterday, but it wouldn't surprise me to see Clark there.
Craig, we probably covered Colin's question in the midfield three in the last answer with, kind of coming up with something a bit more pragmatic. That would be the sort of solution that would work, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Whether you go midfield three or whether you drop your number 10 a little bit deeper just to give you a bit more solidity in the middle rather than it being an actual midfield three with Kayuste coming in or someone like that as and when he's fit. I don't think that's because that's just the way we play. We just need to be a little bit more conservative in the way that we do it.
Yeah, Chris, I'll answer this one. Would you be prepared to swap grounds with West Ham if it would guarantee staying up? Can I answer that question with a question? How long for? Because if it was just one season, then I'll give it a yes, and we'll come back to Portman Road. Anything to stay up, Dave. You know me, I'll sell my soul. Jimmy, I thought Johnson struggled yesterday, out of position. No, we've answered that. Sorry, my bad. Should read the questions beforehand. Do you think it's time? Smodic, I think we've answered that one, haven't we? Andrew, is there a reason we seem to make really later substitutions? There probably is a reason, and Kieran McKenna knows it, and I don't because he's cleverer than me. I'm sure there'll be a very deliberate.
But that was strange yesterday.
74 was it 74? Craig, first one.
Yeah, if not later. And Delap had a knock, didn't he? He was on the floor stretching his calf or his thigh on 55.
73. Yes,
guys, is there not an argument when a game's got loose, you can do more harm than good by switching out a load of players? Do you know what I mean? You can create more chaos, and the 3-1, 4-1 goes 5-1, 6-1. I don't know whether there's anything.
The lad ran himself into the ground yesterday, didn't he? He was done at the end of that game.
Dave, then there's an international break.
I know.
Quite. He would have come out probably earlier. Yeah. In that regard. So there we go. Guys, thank you for your amazing questions. Apologies if any of them did not get asked. We try and do as many as possible. This week coming up, obviously, we mentioned the international break. So the shows will be a little bit different. We'll let you know on social media exactly what is going to be happening. But let us know what you'd like to see. We'll certainly be back here on the flagship with probably a similar conversation than the one we're about to have to round this out. So let's get all emotional, Dave. I'll tell you how I'm feeling about it. I'm still in the really happy to be here, kind of position. My confidence has been knocked a bit by yesterday because, right the way through, we've been able to puff our chest out and say, we're doing okay here. We're doing all right. Whereas that one was poor yesterday, but you get poor games in good seasons, don't you? So I'm not without a hope. The 0 wins thing is just, it sounds stating the bleeding, is such a big problem. I was discussing, the difference between if you'd beaten Southampton, drawn against Fulham and lost to Brighton and Villa, as opposed to drawn against all four. Looking at it now, I would now swap that and just have the win on the board. But just round this show out, Dave, how you feeling now? Weeks, round 7 gone, international break, not in the bottom 3, but no wins.
No, look, it does make, and I won't use that well-worn must-win, this horrible thing, isn't it? But it just does make that Everton game very, very big game already in the season. So the 8th game of the season, 8th game in, isn't it? So that does make that a very, very big game because obviously they've been struggling. Obviously they got their first win last week, didn't they? Point yesterday. I saw some of that game. Played quite well. Obviously Gordon missed a penalty for Newcastle, but played quite well. So that makes that a big game. Nick a win. Nick a win. Well, any sort of win, any sort of 3 points. And that brings a whole lot of confidence back because our confidence will have been knocked by yesterday. People, a lot of fans, and we said it in the pre-match show. I think we perhaps alluded to it on the pod last week. West Ham away, although they got a late point at Brentford, they hadn't been in the best of form. Their supporters not happy with the manager. So yesterday was prime for us to go there and really get something. But look, it's just a quality week in, week out you come up against. And let's just hope we cut out some of these basic errors, really.
Craig, do you want to round it out? How you feeling?
Yeah, very similar. Obviously, it's just the performance yesterday rather than the result. So the performance and the organisation didn't look like a Kieran McKenna organised team. Certainly at the back. And if somehow in the next 2 weeks we can work out how to create a lot more chances and concede a lot fewer big chances, then we may well. And to be fair, our home form and our home performances have been fine, haven't they? All of them have been absolutely fine. So it's just the away performances have been a bit of a concern. But if everyone can rock up to Portman Road in a couple of weeks' time, there's no reason to suggest why we can't put in another good home performance and come out of there with 3 points.
That'll be the thing, Craig. The crowd in a couple of weeks' time will be such a big influence on that game for us. Yeah.
Rich, if you're there in the background, my mouse is doing very funny things. I'm not doing weird things under the table here with my arm. I'm trying to get it going. So after I've done my sign off, if you wouldn't mind ending the show for us, Dave, are you gonna end with a crap or
I can't
not,
do it. I've thought about this long and hard over the last hour, and I see, and in deference to Rob Duckett there, I can't do it, Ben. We're in the Premier League. We're competing against teams in the Premier League. It's not ready for the C word. Not ready yet for it. But let's see. I might in 2 weeks' time. I may have changed my mind.
There we go. We're still here. We're still fighting. We're still outside the bottom 3. We're still looking for the first win, but we still love being here each and every Sunday on Blue Monday, an Ipswich Town podcast. Roll credits, please, Richard.